So we've now completed our 3-page company website using Foundation in RapidWeaver. What I want to do in this lesson is tidy up a few loose ends, touch on a couple more of the site style settings, and just go over the responsive design features in Foundation again, and then finally set up the publishing in our project and put this website live on the internet. So let's go back over to RapidWeaver, and I've got our Foundation project set up here. And what I'm going to do is go and edit the global header partial and select the site style stack. So all we're going to do here is just have a look at a couple more of the features or a couple more of the settings that we can adjust here, just to show you how you can alter the look and feel of your site very easily and very quickly by using this stack. So what I want to do is increase the text sizing for our headers. So you can see here we have a mobile and a tablet plus setting for each header size. So obviously this size will set the mobile text size, and this size will be the text size for anything from the tablet and above, so basically the tablet and desktop sites. And if you remember, the settings are in rems, so if you can't work out the rems in your head, what we can do is go over to Safari and search for that rem calculator. And we've got it here in our history. Okay, and our base font size is 16. If you have adjusted that, make sure that you put in the correct size there. And then what we can do is, as it says here, you can convert multiple pixel sizes. So we could just calculate all of those now. And then if we scroll down, you'll see you get the equivalent rem size for each font size that you entered. So if we wanted our header 1 tags to be 30 pixels, we could enter 1.875 into the box here. So currently it's 275, so it's larger than 40. So we could go and put in, let's say we want our H1s to be 46 pixels. We could calculate that, and the size would be 2875. So we could put that in here, 2.875. And that would update on the Tablet Plus. Obviously you might want to specify a smaller size on the mobile so it doesn't look oversized. However, let's put in that value there and go back to our local site, and we'll refresh. And you'll see that the header 1 sizing there increased very slightly. So this is now roughly 40 pixels in size. And we could then update the base font size if we wanted to. At the moment it's just 1 rem, so that is 16 pixels. We're not going to go and adjust all of these. I just wanted to show you how you can do that very quickly to change the look and feel of all of your headers. So next up, we have already touched on changing the element styles, so we're not going to go over that again in this video, and we've already done a few of the swatches. I'd encourage you to use the swatches throughout the site, because as I've said previously, this will allow you to update the coloring for each one of the elements that are using these different color swatches. Try not to set the individual custom colors on each element. Try and use either the accent colors or the primary and secondary colors, or one of your color swatches that you set up, because you will find in the future it will be so much easier to come back and update the look and feel of your site. Okay, next up, let's have a look up the top of the settings, and I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple of these so that you're aware of them. For example, the site background. At the moment it's a solid color of white. If we wanted that to be, let's say, an off-white color here, just slightly gray, we could do that. And then if we go back and preview our site, right now there isn't any background color available to see, so if we go to the Scriber application page, there we can see that the color is slightly off-white rather than the pure white that we had before. And that will be used wherever we don't set a background. So obviously in the banner here we've got the image, we're not going to see that, but anything that is transparent and doesn't have a banner or a background color or image on there, you'll see that color come through. So if you want to update the background for all of the main content areas, you can do it there. So let's go back into the global header and select the site styles again. I'm going to leave that as the slightly off-white color. Okay, and I think that'll do it for the site style settings. We have covered pretty much all of the features that you're going to use to get started with building a responsive website in Foundation. If you want to know more about any of these settings, please go to the Foundation homepage, which you can find at foundation.joeworkman.net. Okay, so let's move on from there and go and have a look at, for example, the home page. So I'm going to select the home page, and what I want to do is tidy up a couple of bits here. So firstly, I wanted this image to link to the Scriber application page. So when someone clicks on here, they'll go to our application page. So to do that, select the Add Link option and set the link to our Scriber page, like so. Then I want to make sure that this button, this Learn More button, also goes to that Scriber page. So we'll do the same thing there. And apart from that, I think we're looking good. Let's just open that up in preview. And yeah, we can now see that that is linked through, and so is the Learn More button. So I think that home page is looking pretty good. Let's now go to the Scriber page and see if there's anything that we could update. I can see here we should add a little bit of margin to the bottom of the image, so we can go and do that. We've got the Scriber page selected. We'll select that image there, and I'm just going to put a margin of, say, 20 pixels on the bottom. We'll go back and update the preview, and that's looking a little bit better. And we've still got our drop down, which is perfectly fine. We'll leave that as is. Our gallery here is looking pretty good. We've got our dot navigation, and the features are perfectly fine. Yeah, I think this page is looking pretty good actually. I don't think there's anything we need to update or finalize before we finish up. Obviously, as I mentioned throughout the course, you're going to want to set these buy now buttons and the additional call to action buttons here to a real page. Obviously, I haven't done that for the content of this course, but I think that page, as I said, is looking pretty good. Okay, so let's just double check the company page. And yep, that looks perfectly fine. We'll check that everything's working. We've got our pop-up reveal lightbox there, and we've got our office gallery as well. Okay, so before we publish this site, the final thing I want to go over again is the responsive columns. So for example, on the Scriber page here, if we open up Safari's responsive design mode, you'll see the features here, they go to a stacked layout. So you have the icon and then the text, then an icon and the text. Obviously on the tablet and above, we get the icon on the left hand side and the text on the right. What would happen, or how do we do that, or how do we set the layout on the mobile device to have the icon on the left still and the text on the right? Because I think there's going to be enough space here, and this just looks slightly odd. Everything's weirdly spaced, and the icon kind of makes no sense to be centered on a mobile device like that. So let's go to our Scriber page and find that content. I think it's inside of here, and yeah, we can see here. And so let's just close out the stacks library to give ourselves a little bit more space. Now the 3-column foundation stack wrapper is perfectly fine. That's doing its job as we want it to, because what is happening is, if we let that refresh, when we're on a tablet and above, we get the 3-column layout. And then when we scroll down, or we get smaller and we go to a mobile, we get our stacked content. So inside of there we have the 2-column foundation stack, and that's the one that we actually want to focus on, because the 3-column stack is doing its work properly. It's stacking those 2-column stacks on top of each other, and that's what we want. But what we want to affect is 2-column inner stack to continue having the 2-column layout. So what we want to do is select these stacks, so all of these 2-column stacks in here, and we want to adjust the mobile sizing. So I want the mobile sizing set up. Column 1, I want that to be 3, and column 2, I want it to be 9, because if you remember, we always need to add up to 12. Okay, so let's just do that on the first one and go back and preview and see how that looks. And there we can see a 2-column layout even on the mobile. And I think that works a little bit better. As you can see, it makes a bit more sense. We might even get away with having the first column as 2 columns. So let's try that. We'll set this to 2 and the second column to 10. And yeah, I think that works nicely. So what we could do is go and set that for the remaining 2 columns in here. So I'll just do one more with you, and then I'll pause and do the rest quickly myself. So let's set this to 2 and then to 10. And actually I'll just do the third one as well. It goes quickly. 2 and 10. And we'll go back and preview that. And there you can see actually, because the content in here, this is the left hand column content. I should have done these three really, and that would have given you a better idea of how it works. You can see that the first one is here. Let me just let that refresh. And then the second one is here, and the third one is here. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is very quickly do the remaining ones of these off video, and I'll come back in just a second. Okay, so I've now set all of those to 2 and 10. Let's go back and preview that. And if we scroll down, there we can now see we still have that 2-column layout, and it makes a lot more sense there. It looks a lot nicer. So yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. All we might want to do is, I believe the last row here doesn't have any padding on the bottom. So what we might want to do is add the same padding or margin to the bottom of this last column so that everything is spaced out neatly on the live site. So let's actually go and do that. So let's see what the padding for this stack is, and it's 2.5 rems. So we'll go and set that on this bottom row here, so 2.5 on each one, like so, and the final one, and we'll just go and preview that one last time. And there we can see our feature set is now looking a lot nicer. Rather than having the icon at the top in the center and then the text below, it didn't really make sense. We've now got them side by side on all devices, and there's enough content space for that to work. Even if we go down to an iPhone 6 for example, or an iPhone SE, that still works nicely there. And as I say, it makes a lot more sense. And if we go up to a desktop size, we can see that our content is still laid out nicely there as well. And even on an iPad mini and at the different orientations, it works nicely. So I just wanted to go over there exactly how you can tweak the column layouts for all the content sections on your site. So every time you are using a column stack, make sure that you go in and tweak the settings here. Okay, now if you wanted the tablet sizing and above to be the same as the mobile sizing, so if you wanted 2 columns on the left hand side and 10 on the right on all devices, you could just uncheck this define tablet sizing, and all of the other devices would inherit those mobile settings, and that is because we haven't defined a desktop sizing. So the opposite to that is if you wanted custom column sizing on each individual device, you can do so. Just make sure that you check that option and then set the column widths appropriately. So for us, we'll just uncheck that and leave it as having a mobile and tablet column width settings. Okay, and if all this seems a little bit daunting to begin with, I'd encourage you just to experiment and keep working with these column settings, and it will become a lot more familiar, and you'll start to see the benefits of how you can really customize the way that your content is laid out and the way it works and feels on each individual device. So this is a really important area to become familiar with inside of the Foundation framework. There are a lot more settings that you can set on each column stack, and I would encourage you to go to the Foundation documentation again and read up on that so that you become more familiar and you really get to grips with how you can customize those columns with inside of your responsive design. Okay, with that being done, I think we're ready to actually just publish our site to the live server and check that everything's working there. So to do that, go to the publishing setup, and what you'll need to do is enter your FTP details. Now to get these details, you need to contact your hosting company, and they will be able to provide you with the publishing method, server name, username and password. So for me, the publishing method is SFTP. I'm going to enter my server IP address and my username. And I'm not actually using a password because I'm using SFTP. I can use my public key authentication. And then the path, we can either enter that manually or we can browse to the server. So what I'm going to do is browse and ensure that I can connect to my server so the details are correct. And then I'm going to choose the correct folder. So for me it's rapidweaverfoundation.com and then the public folder. In your case, this could be public underscore HTML, or it could be HTML, it could be web underscore HTML. It all depends. As I say, what you'll want to do is contact your hosting company and ensure that the publishing path is correct. Now, this is a very important piece of information. If you make any mistakes in this path, the files are going to be uploaded to the incorrect folder on your server, and that means when you visit your domain name, you're not going to see a website. So if everything is publishing but it's not going up to your actual domain name, you've probably got the path wrong, so please check that. Anyway, for me, I know that is now correct, so I can either double check that the connection is successful by testing it. However, I've already done that with the browse button essentially, but I'll just double check that everything's working correctly. And as soon as you have a connection test successful message, you are ready to go back and publish your site. So click the publish button. We'll then need to enter our domain name. For me, it's http://rapidweaverfoundation.com. Click the continue button. RapidWeaver is then going to export our entire site and then publish that up to the live server. And once that's finished publishing, we can go and visit our site live on the internet. And we can just double check that our Scriber page is loading correctly. And you can see that this is the new site because things aren't cached and they're taking a couple of seconds to download. So there we can see that our site is all there, and we can double check the company page. And we'll just wait for the banner to load. There we go. And we can double check that our gallery is working. Yep. And finally our apply now. Okay, so that will do it for this course. Hopefully you've seen how powerful and useful Foundation for RapidWeaver can be, and you now know how to build a responsive website with Foundation in RapidWeaver. So without further ado, thanks for watching and happy weaving!